Hello, my name is Kevin Ramirez, and I am here to give my informative speech of the consequences of the Korean War. When looking into the modern world, do you ever think about how large the effect of one sub-war had on the Asian continent? Through the dramatic events of the Korean War, the world as a whole was able to understand how conflicting interests leaves communities. My purpose for being here is to inform you of the consequences of the Korean War. In specific, I would like to explain how the Korean War affected Korea culturally and economically, with the effect the war led on the two other main superpowers involved. For the superpowers involved after the war, the US, which sided with South, was there to stop communism, while the Soviets were there with the North to spread communism. Because of the two superpowers involved, the war was much bloodier and violent than it would have had to be originally. Because of the US's involvement and the South and the Soviets persisting in spreading communism, the Koreans as a whole lost 1.2 million people from their population, killing 12% of the Asian people known as Koreans. By the end of the war, both sides were left in economic ruins, both spending what would have been one year amount of gross domestic product, having to rebuild from there. The North technically winning the war, they were in much better shape than South Korea, but because of the events of the war and how it wasn't really much of a win, North Korea started to spend 31% of its gross domestic product on military advances. The main reason the US even gave interest in the Korean War was because of the Soviets' attempt to bring communism into the Asian countries. So the US stepped in with the South to stop the spread of communism from the entire Korean peninsula. End of the war, both superpowers were left devastated, but because China was also involved, it no longer became weak and actually benefited from this war, becoming the third current superpower at the time. This leaves present-day tensions. Because there was never a peace treaty signed, they are both technically still at war. But because they're reconstructing, the border is where the real tension lies, to make sure both sides don't evade each other. I want to talk about the more current. In 1988 to 1990, they started a trade between each other, the North and South. This was called the Sunshine Policy to improve economic to improve economic relations. In July 2003, as of this current century, there is a plan for the reunion, but the question will still as of this current century, July 2003, plans for the reunion still linger, but with the question of what will be of Korea. Can I pause this? Conclusion. Due to the effects of the Korean War, both sides were left devastated. There was a new superpower due to the benefit of this war, and both sides still have tensions of war because it never ended. That's all.